Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
There are moments in life when a sentence, just one, can feel like a bullet. And when my wife looked at me that Saturday afternoon, halfway through her mimosa and full of herself, and said, "Let's be honest, I'm the prize here," I felt something shift inside me that I didn't even know had been hanging by a thread. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like it was common knowledge. Like I should have been thanking her for gracing me with her presence, her time, her body, her breath. She said it with a smug smile, the kind you wear when you've won a game no one else even knew was being played. She didn't say it in anger. She wasn't trying to hurt me. And maybe that's what made it worse. She believed it. With her whole heart. We were standing in the kitchen. She was leaning against the counter in yoga pants, sipping her drink with one hand while scrolling through her phone with the other. I just asked if she wanted to come with me to visit my parents for dinner. Nothing big, just something simple. Family. She didn't even look up. Just sighed. Why would I go to dinner with your parents? Do you really think they appreciate me? Then, after a pause, she added that line. That sentence. The sentence. Let's be honest. I'm the prize here. I stared at her for a second too long. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. I played it off. Said nothing. I grabbed my keys and went out for a drive I hadn't planned to take. Not because I was angry, but because I needed space from the growing tightness in my chest. I don't think it was the first time she said something like that. Not really. Looking back, the signs had always been there, just quieter, wrapped in sarcasm or fake playfulness. The first time I heard it, it was at a dinner party with her friends. She introduced me with a quick, bored laugh and said, "Ladies, meet my husband. He's persistent. I'll give him that." Then a wink. The kind that sounds harmless if you don't listen too hard. Another time, during an argument about intimacy, she threw up her hands and said, "You should feel lucky I even still try with you. Do you know how many men would kill for someone like me?" That night, I apologized. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had paused, like I did this time, and really heard what she was saying. Because what she was saying wasn't just about beauty or confidence or pride, it was about power. She didn't see us as equals. She saw me as a chaser, a follower, a placeholder, someone lucky to be in her orbit, whose job it was to prove himself over and over again. And I had played that role for years. Willingly. I paid the bills, planned the trips, made the sacrifices. I gave up vacations I wanted so she could visit her family. I worked late so she could chase her business dreams. I changed jobs so we could move closer to her yoga studio. Every compliment I gave, she absorbed like oxygen. Every moment I needed her attention, she rationed it like water in a drought. And I kept giving. Because I loved her. Because I believed that loving someone meant lifting them up, being their rock, their safe place. I didn't realize that in our dynamic, the love was something she weaponized, not something she returned. There was no gratitude in her voice that day, just boredom. And when she said it, "I'm the prize," I didn't fight her. I didn't even respond. But something inside me started writing a goodbye. Not a dramatic one, not a loud one. Just the kind that grows silently in the parts of you that finally get tired of being second place in a relationship where there's only two people. Once you hear, "I'm the prize," you can't unhear it. It echoes. It infects every memory, every compliment you ever gave, every quiet moment that once felt like love. That sentence cracked open a vault in my mind. And what spilled out wasn't affection, it was realization. She'd been playing this game for a long time. I just hadn't seen the board. When we first got together, I mistook her confidence for charm. She had this way of drawing people in, sharp eyes, quicker tongue. She could talk a room into listening, and she could make you feel like the only person that mattered, if she wanted to. I was one of the lucky ones. Or so I thought. But looking back, her affection always came in streaks, just enough to keep me reaching. The way she'd pull away after a perfect night and make a comment like, "You're lucky I'm in a good mood." Or how she'd sigh if I brought up emotional needs, framing everything I wanted as needy or clingy. She didn't yell. She didn't insult. She ranked me. With every glance, every silence, every moment of selective affection, she kept herself on a pedestal I never asked her to build, but one I kept reinforcing, brick by invisible brick. There were other signs too. One night at dinner with her friends, one of them asked, "So what's your secret? You guys seem so in sync." Without missing a beat, she said, "Oh, I just remind him who the prize is every now and then." They all laughed. Even I chuckled. Back then, I thought it was one of her jokes. But now, I replay that laugh like a recording, wondering what was behind it. Then there were the times she used intimacy like a reward system. When I did something big, planned a surprise weekend, booked her spa day, bought her favorite perfume. I'd get affection, validation. But ask for affection unprompted? That was pressuring her. That was being selfish. Once, I brought up how distant we'd been lately. I asked, genuinely, if something was wrong, if she needed something from me. She looked up from her laptop, completely unmoved, and said, I'm not here to satisfy your ego every day. Go talk to a therapist if you need constant praise. And then she just kept typing. Another time, after a friend's engagement party, I told her how beautiful she looked in that dress. She smiled, and I thought I'd scored a point. Then, right as we were getting into bed, she murmured, you know, if you were just a little taller, we'd probably look better together in photos. I laughed. She didn't. It wasn't cruel. It was casual, like she was adjusting a table lamp. A passing observation. But that's the thing about a game like hers. It's designed to look harmless. And me? I played along. I kept working longer hours, thinking maybe I hadn't earned her appreciation yet. I tried harder in bed, reading, researching, even trying supplements at one point, just to feel more confident. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and just filed it away under things he's doing to win me back. Except I never lost her. I just never really had her. Because the more I gave, the more she took. The more I chased, the further she moved the finish line. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being a husband and became a contestant. One of many trying to win favor with the prize. And what scared me the most wasn't that she saw herself that way. It was that she needed to. Because if she wasn't the prize, what was she? If she admitted I was equal, if she looked me in the eyes and said, you matter to me the way I matter to you, she'd lose the game. The pedestal would collapse, and she'd have to be human, vulnerable, accountable. That's not a position she knew how to be in. But I did. I'd lived there for years. I didn't announce anything. I didn't make a speech, pack a suitcase, or slam a single door. I just stopped. Stopped trying to win. Stopped chasing. Stopped reacting to her bait. I didn't stop loving her right away, but I stopped performing for her approval. At first, she didn't notice. Or if she did, she chalked it up to one of my moody phases. We'd had those before, when I'd get quiet, retreat inward, bury my thoughts in work or the gym. But this was different. This wasn't sulking. This was letting go. I'd come home, and instead of greeting her with a hug, or how was your day, I'd walk in calmly, head to the kitchen, and make dinner for myself. I'd sit across from her at the table and eat in silence. When she asked questions, I answered, but only what was necessary. No edge, no emotion, just facts. And silence. It terrified her. She started trying little tricks, old tactics that used to draw me in. She wore the perfume I once complimented, put on a short dress when I got home from work, lingered in the doorway in her robe like she was inviting attention. I gave her none, not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing left to give her that she hadn't already tossed aside. One night, she came into the bedroom wearing lingerie I hadn't seen in over a year. The same one she once told me she didn't wear anymore because it was too childish. She stood at the door, her posture awkward, her expression unsure for the first time in years. I looked up from my book and simply said, you look nice. Then I turned the page. She didn't say a word. She just stood there for a few more seconds, then turned and left the room. That night, she didn't come to bed. I didn't ask why. She tried starting arguments the next week. Snide comments about how I seemed distant or cold. But I didn't bite. I let her talk. I let the air fill with tension. And then I'd walk away. One morning over coffee, she said, you know, I miss the way you used to look at me. I sipped, nodded, and replied, so do I. She didn't expect that. She thought I'd apologize, beg, ask how I could fix things. But there was no fight left in me. No game. No contest. No chase. I wasn't punishing her. I was preserving myself. And slowly, she began to crumble. She started texting me during the day again. How's work? Or what do you want for dinner? I responded, politely, but I never asked anything back. She planned a weekend getaway, said we needed time to reconnect. I told her I was already committed to a few things. That was the truth. For the first time, I wasn't putting her ahead of my schedule, my goals, or my peace. I spent more time at the gym. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I picked up an old side project that had sat dormant on my desktop for months. Each small step I took for me felt like a breath of clean air after years of breathing in secondhand disappointment. And she saw it. One night, She said it aloud. I don't like who you're becoming. I looked at her and replied, I do. She tried to twist it. Oh, so you're just going to ignore your wife? Pretend like everything's fine while you check out emotionally? I stared at her for a moment, long enough to make her uncomfortable, and then said, I'm not pretending anything anymore. She didn't reply. She left the room, and I stayed seated, calm, untouched. It was the first time in our entire relationship that she was the one wondering where she stood with me. The pedestal she stood on had started to crumble, but not because I pushed it, because I stepped away. And without me down there holding it up, she had nothing to stand on anymore. It was a Wednesday evening when she asked it. The question that came out of nowhere, like a wine glass finally cracking under a slow, silent pressure. Why don't you chase me anymore? She was standing in the hallway, barefoot, arms folded. Not angry, not smug, just hollow. Like she was trying to understand the rules of a game she no longer knew how to win. I didn't answer right away, not to be dramatic, but because I genuinely wanted to find the kindest way to say, because I finally realized you liked the chase more than the man. Instead, I asked, do you miss being chased? Or do you miss being adored without ever giving it back? Her face shifted, just a flicker, but I saw it. The truth trying to force its way to the surface before she could shove it down. I miss how you used to be, she said quietly. I nodded. Yeah, I miss how I used to be too. She tried again. You've changed. And maybe I had. But what she didn't understand, what she couldn't understand, was that change doesn't always mean someone's lost. Sometimes, it means they've found a version of themselves they buried just to be enough for someone else. She sat on the couch across from me, curling her legs under her, biting her thumbnail like she used to in college when she was nervous about test results. You used to light up when I walked into a room, she said. I used to believe you wanted me there, I replied. There was no venom in my voice, no edge, just the calm finality of a truth too long ignored. She looked away. That silence she once used as a weapon was now turned back on her, and she didn't know how to carry it. In the days that followed, she started clinging to routines she used to mock. She made breakfast one morning, scrambled eggs and toast, just like I liked. She tried to sit next to me on the couch and lean into my side like she used to, but I didn't put my arm around her. Not because I was punishing her, because it didn't feel real anymore. Every gesture suddenly felt like a performance. Like she was finally realizing the prize she claimed to be wasn't on a pedestal, but was instead standing at the edge of the stage, wondering why the audience had stopped clapping. And worst of all, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger gives you something to hold, a reason to fight, to explain, to fix. But when that fades, all that's left is the weightless understanding that you've outgrown the cage you once called love. She accused me of cheating next. Said I was probably seeing someone, because apparently, being distant only made sense if another woman was involved. No, I said simply. I'm not seeing someone else. I'm seeing myself again. She didn't believe me. Because to her, detachment could only come from betrayal, not awakening. That's when the panic started to show. The fake arguments. The forced tears. The late-night texts from the other room. Can we talk? Do you still love me? Are you giving up on us? Each one felt like a ghost tugging at the sleeve of a man who was already walking away in spirit, even if his body still slept beside her. One night, after days of strained silence and fragile gestures, she said it. The truest thing she had ever said. I don't know who I am if I'm not being adored. And that's when I realized. She never wanted me. She wanted what I made her feel about herself. I didn't leave with a bang. There was no suitcase by the door, no shouting match, no betrayal to weaponize. I simply became someone else. Not overnight, but steadily, like thawed ice turning to water, and then to air, evaporating from the version of myself she once knew and took for granted. It started with my silence. Then came the gym. Then new books, deeper sleep, stronger posture. Laughter, real laughter, with friends I hadn't seen in years. I started saying no more often. Started waking up without that tightness in my chest. Started remembering who I was before she convinced me I was only worth something when I was proving it to her. And she noticed. She watched, more each day, as I stopped revolving around her orbit. She would ask, "Where are you going?" when I left the house without an explanation. She would peek into my office when she heard music playing again. She even asked, with thinly veiled sarcasm, "So, who is she?" There wasn't a she. There didn't need to be. The real threat wasn't another woman. The threat was me fulfilled. One night, Weeks after she asked why I'd stopped chasing her, she tried to spark something again. We both had a drink. She came up behind me as I was rinsing a glass, wrapped her arms around me, and whispered, "Remember when this used to mean something?" I froze for a second, the way muscle memory does when it recognizes an old move. Then I turned, gently unwrapped her arms from around my waist, and said, "It did. And that's what makes this sad." Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. The kind of done that doesn't need revenge, because growth is the revenge. She tried harder after that. Left sticky notes with compliments on the mirror. Offered to cook dinner. Suggested a weekend trip, somewhere we'd gone years ago, back when love still lived between us. But love, when it dies quietly, doesn't always leave a corpse. Sometimes it evaporates. And she was still setting a table for a guest who had long since left the room. One afternoon, she found me packing a small overnight bag, nothing dramatic, just a weekend retreat I'd booked for myself. "Are you coming back?" she asked, not hiding the fear in her voice this time. I zipped the bag slowly, looked her in the eyes, and said, "Of course, but you still haven't realized. I'm not coming back as him." She swallowed hard. That was the moment. The one where it finally sank in, not that I was gone, but that the version of me who worshipped her pedestal was never returning. I did come back, technically. I still slept in the house. Still did my own laundry. Still existed in the same space. But emotionally, spiritually, I was already somewhere she couldn't follow. And it showed. Her "I'm the prize" attitude crumbled beneath the weight of its own emptiness. Because what is a prize if no one is playing the game? One night, she cried on the patio. I walked out to say goodnight, and she looked up at me like she didn't recognize the man standing there. "You were supposed to fight for me," she whispered. I knelt beside her, not angry, not gloating, just still. "I did," I said softly. "For years. But you were never fighting with me. Only against me." She turned away, shoulders shaking, and I walked back inside. No door slammed. No dramatic speech. Just the sound of a man finally choosing peace over proving his worth. The next morning, her side of the bed was empty. She hadn't left, just slept on the couch. I found my coffee already made, a note beside it. "I'm sorry I treated you like a fan instead of a partner." I read it once. Twice. Then I folded it in half, slid it into a drawer, and went on with my day. Not because I didn't care, but because I no longer needed the apology to move forward. I had already become the man she could never reach again. And the scariest part for her? I didn't become him to make her regret losing me. I became him because I finally remembered I was never meant to be chasing in the first place.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.